Let's go! We have the funnest weekend of SEC games of the season, and honestly, this could be the best weekend of the year, right? Because there are so many juicy matchups, and I know we're looking forward to the next week with LSU, Bama, and Tennessee and Georgia, but Tennessee and Georgia themselves individually have very tricky matchups, including this thriller last year versus Kentucky, and one of the best quarterback John Elway's into the end zone I'll ever see from Will freaking Levis. So we're going to talk about all these games. Boom! I'm looking at you. Yes, you right now. I want to say thank you to all the Tennessee fans that have actually blown up my channel, even though half of you think I'm still an Alabama fan. I'm still getting comments about that. Pick all of these games, right? That's why you're here. Last week, my lock of the week hit the Mississippi State and Alabama under. So let's get to this week's matchup, starting off here with Arkansas versus Auburn. Razorback fans, you guys have helped me out big time as well. You guys know historically this has been a matchup where you have just flat out gotten screwed, including the last time you were here in 2020, the clear Bo Nix fumble. We won't talk too much about that, but there have been a lot of wacky things that have happened in this matchup. This is one of the rare SEC matchups where both teams had a bye week before they played each other. Here, obviously, next week, LSU and Alabama will be in a similar spot. So you would like to think that these defenses are going to be rested, but I think this game will actually be a shootout, and I actually do like Arkansas swallowing the points here. Look, the difference for me is Arkansas actually likes their coach, and I'm not sure if Auburn likes Brian Harsin. So because of that, I think Arkansas will play harder. I also think this matchup is a little bit important for Arkansas, more than Razorback fans would like to admit, because your schedule does get a little tricky. The Liberty game isn't like a 1 gazillion% chance of victory there. So getting to 6 wins is going to be tough with LSU, Ole Miss, and at Missouri to close out the year. These are all 4 winnable games for Arkansas, but still, you would like to see Arkansas get a W this weekend. I think that they will. Give me the final score in a shootout there, 38-31. Now we move on to, obviously, the world's largest cocktail party, Georgia versus Florida here. 56.5 the total, 23 points. Love Georgia here. Florida's defense is just so bad. However, I do think Florida's offense will be able to hit some explosives on Georgia's defense. So because of that, I'm actually going to pick the Gators to cover in this spot. But pretty much Georgia will dominate this matchup. Final score there will be 41-20. Moving on here, Missouri to South Carolina. Obviously, you guys know how much I love Shane Beamer. 3.5-point spread right there. Missouri, obviously, is a team that I picked to go over their win total at 5.5. It looks like that's going to be the only total I'll miss this year. It's hard to find wins left on the schedule. So Missouri, after beating Vanderbilt last week, they kind of sort of need this one. And look, it is a little fishy that South Carolina is only a 3.5-point favorite after beating a Texas A&M team last week with more talent. But you got to look to see how they won that game. They got a kickoff return. They got a few other breaks to go their way and some good runs late from Marshawn Lloyd. So I do think this game's going to be ugly. I like the under here. I think it's going to be one of these South Carolina victories where they win like 21-17 or something like that. Then we get, before the big game here, Kentucky and Tennessee, let's talk Ole Miss and Texas A&M. Obviously, 2-point favorites here, the Rebels over Texas A&M. Last year, the Aggies were a slight favorite, or actually Ole Miss was a slight favorite, and that was one of my favorite plays of the year. I hammered Ole Miss at home because Texas A&M, quite frankly, just plays terrible on the road. But this time, they are at home in what looks to be not a must-win, but a must-ish win for Texas A&M to get to 6 wins this year. Ole Miss obviously coming off a loss. What I like here, if you're a Texas A&M fan, is Ole Miss's offensive line quite frankly disintegrated last week. I was honestly really shocked at how bad they played in the second half of the game versus LSU. And look, LSU's got a really good defensive line. They got Harold Perkins. They got B.J. Ojolari. But still, they could not protect. And Texas A&M's defensive line is every bit as talented as LSU's defensive line. So because of that, I do think the Aggies will be able to slow down Ole Miss some. I'm still going to go Ole Miss. I'm still a Lane Train believer, but still, I'm not in love with this game. This is a game I'm, just pretty much staying away from. But I am going to go Ole Miss in a close game here. Final score, let's go 28-24. And last but certainly not least, now, once again, SEC League Office conspiracy. As you will see here, Chase McGrath, he did it again. How do they let Tennessee continue to rob the rest of the SEC? My goodness. Kidding. I had to do it. And you guys know Chase McGrath is a great kicker. So this was obviously the play that a lot of Kentucky fans have nightmares about. They roll a safety into the box late, and Will Levis sees that this is off coverage right here, and he just assumes that this DB isn't going to drive down hard on this football. And Alontae Taylor, you guys know, is one of the fastest DBs you'll ever see in the SEC, and then it's just, toodles after that. So obviously, you look at Tennessee's defense, they've been, a chaotic defense, if you will, but obviously offensively is the story for Tennessee. They are at home, but this point spread being at 12 to me is a tad bit high. I think Brad White, Kentucky's defensive coordinator, will be a little bit more prepared to play the faster pace offense from Tennessee, right? Especially having an extra week to prepare for it. And let's be honest, this is a classic look-ahead spot for Tennessee because, as we mentioned in a video earlier in the week, this kind of sort of feels like them versus Georgia for the SEC championship game. So if you are Tennessee, obviously you're rocking the all-black uniforms. I like that. I think that's going to look pretty fresh. But, this is – you hear coaches preach about this all the time, the one game at a time mentality. This is one of the most classic look-ahead spots you'll ever see, right? So, for me, I look at this Kentucky game as – a game in which if Tennessee does win it, it does actually give them more playoff flexibility than if they were to lose to Kentucky and beat Georgia. And that actually sounds crazy, but it's honestly kind of sort of true. Because if Tennessee wins this game versus Kentucky and they finish the year with only a loss versus Georgia, they have the softest 3-game SEC stretch you'll ever see, with Missouri, at South Carolina, and at Vanderbilt. Those are arguably the 3 worst teams in the SEC left on the schedule. So beat Kentucky here. Your only loss being being versus Georgia, especially if LSU keeps winning. Tennessee's still going to have a strong playoff chance or playoff gripe if they finish with 1 loss regardless. So it is a very interesting spot. But now let's actually talk about the game. I actually do like Kentucky to cover in this spot. Even though I do think, of course, Tennessee is the better team. Kentucky coming off the bye week, having all this time to prepare for the Tennessee defense. Yes, they put you in conflict that it's really difficult to prepare for, even if you have 4 weeks to prepare for them. Still, I think Kentucky is going to be gritty and find a way to keep this close. And I do think Kentucky will be able to run the football some on what should be and what has been, honestly, a really good run defense for Tennessee this year. So I think you're going to see some zone read. I think you're going to see a lot of different things thrown Tennessee's way. And I also think Kentucky's going to try and hit a few trick plays as well versus Tennessee, because this is such a massive game for the Wildcats. So because of that, I think this game is going to be close. I also, the over-under is kind of weird here, but I am going to go Kentucky to cover here. It's not my lock of the week. I actually do like the Arkansas-Auburn. Arkansas-Auburn. I like the over in that spot. So yeah, there you go. But there's not any like stone cold lock of the week where I'm actually putting, my own so I rarely put a big bet down for a game. I just don't unless I know for sure that I have a strong lean on it, kind of like last week with the over under. And by the way, that under cleared by quite a few points last week. So yeah, I do like Kentucky to cover, and it is one of my more favorite plays of the week. It is Power Hour SEC. Bam! Look at that throw by Will Levis. It was open. I miss Wandale. And tonight, oh, it's my auntie's jambalaya. Let's go.